Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question about hyperplasia in humans. And for those of you who don't know what that means, hyperplasia is the splitting of muscle cells, the growing of one muscle cell into new muscle cells. So when we talk about hypertrophy, we're talking about the growth of a muscle cell, it getting bigger, it growing so that the muscle grows. Whereas in hyperplasia, as opposed to hypertrophy, is the splitting of it into new muscle cells, which then in theory could grow bigger quicker. So the hyperplasia wouldn't actually make a muscle immediately bigger, but it would hypothetically give it more potential for growth over time. So it would actually be a very positive thing for someone seeking long-term gains in muscle mass. Now the problem is that we don't have actual studies showing true hyperplasia occurring in humans. Now we've got some studies that suggest heavy doses of certain drugs might do so. But the way that we got that is not that we studied it in a lab, it's just that we found that some top-level bodybuilders, when we do muscle biopsies, have more muscle cells than other people. Now, does that mean that they were just genetically predisposed to that, so they had more muscle cells than average, and that's why they were able to get so big once they did the other things, or was it a specific combination of drugs they did? We have never actually determined that specifically, or which specific drugs are absolutely the cause, if it is the drugs, at what doses. So that one's really too hard to call. We don't have good data on that yet. So the studies we've seen in animals that have shown it, the training protocols that we subjected those animals to, we wouldn't be able to put a human being through. And I can assure you, you wouldn't want to be subjected to those things even for $1 million. Because they would be excruciatingly painful for months on end. You would literally need to be doped up with so much morphine to keep you from screaming and screaming and screaming that you wouldn't be able to subject yourself to it. The trauma from it, the psychological trauma, would probably destroy you forever. It would be nonstop torture for months on end. But that's what we've done to animals, and we have gotten it to occur in them, particularly birds, through extreme stretching. Meaning stretching with weights that are 5 or 6 times their actual body weight and leaving them hanging off them for 48 hours at a time and things like that. So off of their limbs, and it actually makes them grow. So it'd be like, if we hung a 1,000-pound weight off of your leg and left it hanging and dangling there and it didn't rip the bone for 48 hours, we would see some hyperplasia, then repeat it over and over and over to see the effect occur. So that's basically the equivalent, and you wouldn't be able to stand the pain of it. So it's not really feasible to do this to human beings. But we have seen it in animal studies. Well, the problem is that there are people out there, and some people say, well, you're saying we don't have evidence of how to do it in humans other than maybe through stretching and with combinations of certain drugs. Yeah, because certain drugs in animals have induced it to a small extent, and the extreme stretching has to a large extent in animals. So hypothetically, in humans, weighted stretching with certain combinations of drugs might induce hyperplasia. We're still in the hypothetical. We haven't proven how this works, or if there's any consistent way to do it. So it is guesswork at best. Now, some people did say, yeah, but there's so-and-so in the community, he's even on YouTube, has said that you could do that, and he's a researcher and he has an advanced degree. All right, guys, here's what I want to tell you guys when it comes to anybody with an advanced degree here in the bodybuilding or fitness world who is heavily involved in the supplement industry. Be very leery of what advice they give you. You got to keep in mind, you're dealing with an individual, whether educated or not, that is so heavily involved with an industry that makes its living off of lying, cheating, and tricking young people into buying worthless things, that you really have to question what they're trying to sell you when they suggest anything. So I'm not saying they're always wrong, because sometimes they're right, and they very oftentimes are right, but always step back and assess what their financial angle might be. What are they trying to sell you? Because they're already involved in an extremely unethical industry, so be very, very leery when getting advice from those people. Don't assume when they say, hey, I've got a way to induce hyperplasia, that they're not just trying to sell you a worthless program or something that isn't really going to work. Look at the other stuff that they're sponsored by or they're involved with, and think about that for a minute. Particularly when it hasn't been proven, and we do not have a single case of anything that would suggest that training alone could induce it in humans with any sort of reasonable training method that you would be able to handle the excruciating pain of. So put that in perspective. So hyperplasia, is it real? Definitely in animals, but it takes pretty extreme things for it to occur in humans. Maybe certain combination of drugs in high doses, but again, we don't have enough studies on it, and maybe those drugs combined with very heavy weighted stretches or anything with a stretch reflex might induce it more. But we don't have enough evidence to really say that conclusively yet. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope this has been as informative as fuck, and I will talk to you guys next time.